Okay, one of the things that I wanted to do was to do some sort of a buzzword bingo in the nicest possible way. There have been, I have not been able to go to as many talks as I want, I apologize, but all the talks that I've been to have been really awesome. And in every talk that I've been to, there has been a point that one of the speakers has made that is relevant to the journey that I'm going to tell you about here and what we've learned. And so, how many people have gone out and tried barbecue while they've been in Austin? Okay, you guys, you need to get out more. The whole point of coming to Austin for something like this is to go out. So rather, you know, you don't have to play along if you don't want to, but if you, while I'm talking about this, see something that you're kind of going, oh, this resonates with something I heard or something that I talked about, you get to call out one of our barbecue places. So Franklin's, Black's, Lambert's, I'm going to roast in hell for this, but Rudy's, sorry. But call out a barbecue place in Austin, and we'll see if we actually get kind of all of them at the end, and we'll vote on which one is everybody's favorite. Given that there's like 4 of you that have been to barbecue here, this might not really work. We're talking stacked, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to say is that this title doesn't actually match with the title that we submitted for the talk, and that's because the title was submitted a while ago. And when we started to go through what we wanted to talk about, this story just kind of jumped out. It was something that we really wanted to tell. So first of all, PagerDuty. PagerDuty is 15 years old. So this means that if PagerDuty was a teenager, they'd be stressing you out right now with their learner's permit and trying to figure out how to go and, you know, crash your brand new car. But we're not that kind of a teenager. 10 years ago, this is what we looked like, right? Today, we've done a lot of growing up. When we started, we did on-call scheduling, alerting, incident tracking. So, I mean, that's why it was called PagerDuty, that thing that you used to wear that would beep when you had to go and do something. Now, we've evolved, and we have what we call Operations Cloud. And we're really all about enterprise incident management. And of course, as part of there, we have AI ops. And I'm just going to say we did AI before generative AI, so we're not like jumping onto this late, you know, we're not a Johnny-come-lately to the AI space. We have over 27,000 customers, over 1 million users. Lots of people use us. We have lots of locations, and we love APIs. We have over 700 active integrations with various third parties, all of which are using our APIs. So we actually have a bunch of people who are pretty good at thinking about what do we do with APIs, how do we build them, how do we maintain them, how do we just make them available. So we were all really happy with what we were doing with AI, and then all of a sudden 2023 hit and everything became AI for everything, all things generative AI. And we, like everybody else, sat down and said, well, this is really interesting. What is this going to do to how we help our customers? Where is it in generative AI that we can make our customers' lives better, given that we are an operations cloud and we're helping with enterprise incident management? So I'm going to take you through a little bit of kind of what we did and the different ways and teams that are using generative AI. And for those of you, name the movie. Yeah, and like the longest subtitle in the world, How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Learn to Love the Bomb. Yes. So we relearned to love APIs as we were going through our generative AI adoption and how we were exposing this to our customers. So one of the things when you are going through an incident, and I know that at least one person in this room has done this in the 2 days that we've been here, is that you have to, when you have an incident, when something's going wrong, there are always people who want to know what's going on. Tell me the status, and they want to know every 20 minutes what's going on. And if your team is sitting there trying to write a status update, not surprising if it takes 15 minutes to write that status update, so it's 15 minutes to write the status update, you send it, 5 minutes to do the work, and then you start getting ready to write your next status update. So one of the things that we've been looking at is how do we use generative AI to give you a draft of a status update so that you can continue to focus on your incident, on your triage, and on your response, and then you know, keep on going. So then the next thing is, you know, we've got this generative AI, it's helping us with our status. What do you do with the person that comes into the incident late? There's always somebody that comes in partway through and then you stop everything to catch them up, and you have to give them the whole story. So with an acquisition, with an acquisition that we did called Jelly, now one of the things we can do is through generative AI, right, API-enabled generative AI, you can generate a status update, like what happened. And so somebody coming in can go and read that status update that was generated, and I don't have to interrupt all of my people who are actually doing the incident response. Okay. Then the next thing is like, well, crap, I've got to go and do something, right? I want to go and look at something in my database. I want to go and shut off this server. There are all these different automation, all these different actions I want to do. I can have somebody sit down, write the code. I can take it through all of my PRs and my approvals and make everything happen. Or through the magic of AI, so I'm going to go over to this side so this side of the room doesn't feel left out, we can use generative AI to help us with a prompt so that it'll generate a query for us so that we can, again, be faster and more effective with how we're doing our incident response. So we do all of these great things, we figure out what happened, we roll back the code, we fix our whatever the problem was, and then the next thing we have to do is generate that post-mortem. What happened? Writing a post-mortem from a blank piece of paper really kind of stinks because you're sitting there going, I don't even know where to start. So in order to get rid of the tyranny of the blank page, we're bringing in generative AI to create that draft for you. It'll go through your Slack channels or whatever else it is and generate at least that draft so you've got something to start with. So all really great use cases for generative AI for helping our customers as they go through their incident response. So, you know, like everybody, we went and talked to our customers. What do you think? Okay, yeah, we're cautiously optimistic. Yeah, maybe positive when we walk through. Here are all these things that you can get. But then there's always somebody, well, I want to retain control, right? And as a CISO, sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Heather Hinton. I am the Chief Information Security Officer at PagerDuty. I'm going to get in trouble for not doing this right at the very beginning. I apologize. When customers are looking at how we're doing all of this, they're going, well, this is really great, but I want control, right? All of those integrations that you've given me, I get to choose when I use them. It's in my control, and I want the same thing for generative AI. Great that you've got that ability to generate a runbook for me. I don't actually want somebody else's generative AI to create code for me, right? I don't want, for whatever reason, this predefined postmortem. I want to control it. PagerDuty is on the FedRAMP journey. We are weeks away from getting our agency-sponsored authority to operate. If you've been FedRAMP, you're going to know that we are having a big party when that happens. Both FedRAMP and me as the CISO say, guys, this is really powerful and really scary, and I need to give the customer choice. I need to allow the customer to say, I want to use this and I'm going to opt in to using it, as opposed to, this is really scary, take it away. It's very much an opt-in. Really? God, it really sucks when the security person has that happen, right? So we sat down and we said, okay, look, so now I'm about to go back to APIs, okay? So we looked at it, we had these 4 different teams at least using generative AI. They were all talking to, for the most part, the same LLM through the API. Everybody was going fast. They were experimenting. In fact, the phrase we use internally is we're going faster, faster. So this was really good. Everybody experimented. The APIs were there. They were able to use it, and everything was, you know, we thought we were doing well, but then we went and said, well, okay, this kind of doesn't make sense, because when we actually look at it, it turns out we thought that they were using different generative AI providers. Nope, they were all on the same one. And we said, okay, well, this doesn't make sense. If they're all talking to the same one, we should centralize the generative AI work, right? I'm not talking centralize the API management. I'm talking centralize the generative AI work. And that includes the How do we get permission? How do I add the checks so that the customers get to maintain their opt-in? How do I make sure I've got the bandwidth? Do I have whatever is needed to make sure that I'm not violating any data privacy laws? We're going to centralize this. This was a really great decision. We liked this. And we also said, well, we've got an AI ops team, right? Let's have our AI team be the point of centralization because they're the experts on this. They know what this is all about. And if we did this, then we could let our SMEs, they would learn even faster because they became the repository of all things generative AI for us. We had a single place to go. You know, again, all of those good things that you want to have. And so we said, okay, this is really great. And we had them, they built a pass-through proxy, and they did the things that I want, which is making sure that there's a single consistent check that the customer has opted in, making sure that all of the API keys are being managed properly, right? You know, the last thing you want is to get something mixed up in a multi-threaded environment and use one key for another customer and then start exposing the wrong data. And then we wanted to make sure that, you know, they were worrying about availability, latency, all of those things, right? So the team did this, and it was really, you know, we thought, oh, this is really great. This works for us. And then we sat down and we had this light bulb moment, and we said, hang on a second. The team is so focused on making sure that the API does what we need it to do and that it's behaving properly. We actually missed what we unintentionally did was we moved the model of ownership for the AI skills away from my AI team over to my product teams, and that is exactly the opposite of what we were trying to do. It was, you know, and we noticed this because the AI team just wasn't getting the kind of benefits that we thought out of this, and they kind of said, well, yeah, I can't, because I'm so busy, Heather, doing this opt-in that you made us do, and all of these other things. And then we started to see that the product teams were also struggling because they were having to learn things like how to properly engineer a prompt. How did we make all of this happen? So what we did was we kind of went, okay, somebody in the room put up their hand and said, oh, I'm a systems engineer, I know all about this. Systems actually, you know, if you're not careful, will oppose their intended function. Right? Our intent was to learn fast and to move fast, to allow our product teams to focus on doing the things that our customers needed, allowing our AI ops team to focus on generative AI. And the outcome was that our AI ops team spent all of their time managing the API, and the product team had to learn those AI skills that my AI ops team already had. So our approach to optimizing API access for generative AI solutions actually facilitated exactly what we didn't want. And you know, that was kind of like our oops or our light bulb. And we'd be clear, we didn't do anything wrong, right? It was a case of unintended consequences. We didn't actually have that light bulb. Now, the good news is we had it pretty quickly. We were only a couple weeks in before we went, okay, there's something funky here. And so we pulled back and we said, okay, AI team, you're going to build that AI proxy, but it's actually going to be a generative AI PP. See how I did that, right? Have you guys been to enough conferences where everybody's sticking AI everywhere? Right, in case you missed it. There. So what we did was we had to pull back and we had to actually bring some of our API teams in to help with the managing of the API itself with the descriptors, and we were actually then allowing our AI ops team to actually focus on the content. So we ended up, where we ended up was the right place. The AI team was actually starting to build the stuff we needed to do, so they were exposing, instead of requiring my product teams to learn how to build a proper prompt, what we would say is, okay, we're going to build that prompt for you because we're going to, in our API proxy, we're going to actually start bringing the smarts in. We didn't really understand or think about it. We were so focused on the descriptors that we kind of forgot the importance of the capabilities itself. So I have, okay, cool. I'm actually talking really fast, so I have a lot of time. Anybody know where this is? Okay, this is Boston. Anybody here old enough to remember the Big Dig? All right, so this is just another way of talking about, in this case, highways are my API descriptors. And one of the things that happened with the Big Dig was that it was one of the largest public works projects in the US ever. It was 10 years, and this entire above-ground highway system here was buried underground. So now if you go into Boston, you tunnel everywhere. You can't get to the airport without going through a tunnel. And the reason that everybody in Boston got behind the Big Dig was because the traffic was so bad, right? So that road here, it's called the Central Artery. It was so clogged that at the time, when this was in the early 1990s, traffic was largely at a standstill, because that's going there, I'm reading that the wrong way, for 10 hours a day. And the projections were that if nothing was done, traffic in Boston would be at a standstill for 16 hours a day by 2010, so 14 years ago. So everybody got behind this awesome project. We're going to go and bury all of these highways, and we're going to, we're focusing on the API contractor. The descriptor here is my highway. And then what happened was, 10 years later, the Big Dig ends. The roads are buried, there are tunnels, everything's really good, and traffic was even worse, right? So what are we now here, 2008? So like 15 years ago, oh my God, that's 15 years ago. 15 years ago, traffic had doubled from pre-Big Dig, and it's now doubled at least against since. So the reason I'm telling you this story is that this is all about unintended consequences and how you've got to be so careful that you're separating out your descriptor and your capabilities. So, put it another way, APIs are not purely technical, right? They are, what is not in the API is just as important in terms of the organizational consequences as what is. And so the challenge that I have for all of you is when you are going through and you are consolidating APIs, developing new APIs, teaching your teams how to use APIs, make sure that you are clear on the capabilities and the expectations. How do you expect people to use them? Do they need to have special skills to use them? Make sure that it's clearly defined, right? So these are all contracts. I know yesterday we talked about things like Open API, and there was a whole section on the talking to developers about APIs. What I'm telling you here with this story is don't forget that. That is a critical part of how we make these things usable and get everybody on board with our API story. So I talked really fast, so I apologize. I'm early. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for coming.